Hi, today we're going to be looking at the salaries of general practitioners in South Africa. We're going to be comparing the salaries of GPs in the private sector to the GPs in the public sector. We're going to be looking at the remuneration, how it's calculated in the private sector, what are the factors, and what are the systems used. I'm Manithan Ryan, a medical doctor with more than 20 years of experience in the healthcare industry. So join me as we look at these salaries. The South African healthcare system is a two-tiered healthcare system, meaning that there's a private and a public sector. The public sector, generally the doctors are employed by the state and given a salary, whilst in the private sector, you work as an individual or in a group practice and you bill to a medical aid or the patient pays you out of pocket. So how is the salaries calculated in the private sector? We've got a fee for service, a capitation model. You look at quality of service as well you pay for. So let's look at the systems now. According to the Department of Health, one of the primary reasons for the anticipated implementation of the NHI is the need to have an affordable healthcare system in the country. There's been various inquiries into the cost of the private healthcare, like a Competitions Commission's tribunal in 2004, and the current health market inquiry, mainly due to the rising cost of healthcare. But the question is, are the doctors a perpetrator of the high cost, or is it the healthcare system that is the problem? In order to make any comparison, we need to compare like to like. We're going to compare the salary of a non-dispensing GP who does no surgical procedures in private practice to a GP at a supervisory level in the public sector who works in an outpatient department setting only. We assume that both GPs spend 75% of their time consulting patients, and the other 25% is on managerial or administrative duties, productivity issues, and research and development. We also assume that there's a level of experience, that is a minimum of 3 years, to either be a GP in private practice or a GP at a supervisory level in the public sector. The GP in private practice is also a solo practitioner and on a fee for service model. So let's now look at the background to the remuneration of doctors in the private sector. As I said, in 2004, there was a commission into the fees of doctors, and the current benchmark cost of service is now based on the reference price list, or RPL. The components of the tariff for consultation are the direct labor rate per minute, the overhead rate per minute, the return of investment rate per minute, and the average duration of service, and then we add the VAT thereafter. So to get the price, we add the three components, labor rate, overhead, and return of investment, and we multiply this by the utilization or unit value. How do we calculate the direct labor rate per minute? Interestingly enough, the direct labor rate per minute is calculated using the public sector as a reference. There's no clear methodology referred to in the policy document, but by using the Patterson grading system, the GP in private practice function and responsibility is compared to that of a clinical manager in the public sector. So the salary benchmark or reference will be 1,173,900. This salary is then divided by the standard volume for direct labor, taking into account productivity, leave, holidays, etc., as alluded to in the document. So this value is 79,290 minutes. So if we look at how the standard volume is calculated, so this is from the policy document of the Department of Health. We look at the days, it's 365 days, 0.25. This is to provide for leap years. We subtract weekends, public holidays, annual leave, and sick leave of 8 days. So the total days available is 220 days, 0.25. And if we look at the minimum working hours, it's 8 hours, available hours. This is the base volume for the laborers, 105, 720. That's how we get the 79. The salary of 1,173,900 is divided by the 79,290, and we get 14 Rand 82 per minute. That's the direct labor rate per minute. Now let's look at the overhead costs. How much does it cost to run a practice? So we're looking at direct labor. So average GP spends about 129,105. Indirect labor, that's their staff costs, is 312,483. We look at salaries, protective and uniforms that you can buy for your staff. So that's around 9,240. So what the average GP spends. Practice management and administration, accounting, audit fees, advertising fees, medical scheme administrative fees, software licensing, communication costs, telephone, 38,708. We're looking at accounting fees of 33,176. Remember, this is an average cost, so it could be more or could be less. Next, we look at the premises. So a bond or rental space, on average, doctors spend about 184,000 rands and 319. Per month, this is 15,359. The building maintenance repairs, 28,000, so that's 2,400 per month. So what's the average size of a practice? So the suggested size of a solo GP practice, this is from studies done both by the Department of Health and internationally. A reception area is about 5 square meters. The waiting room should be about 25 square meters. Treatment room, 16 square meters. A consulting room, 13.5 square meters. Then you've got an area for the patient file, storage room, administrative, a common room, and your total area being 87.5 meters squared. So the cost of renting premises, according to the study, ranged between 5,000 to 40,000 Rand per month. So you're looking at a shopping mall where the rentals are high, it's about 40. If you go to a suburb, it's about 5,000 Rands. So as you can see, that's the cost of a bond or rental space. 15,359 is reasonable because the benchmark says 5 to 40. Now let's look at the overhead rate per minute. The estimated mean, as we said, was 1,532,871. Standard volume for your staff is 90,090 minutes. The overhead rate per minute, therefore, is 17 Rand and 2 cents. We look at the return of investment rate per minute. This, according to the Department of Health, we use a banker's acceptance rate, estimated expected rate of return after tax, company tax rate 28, secondary company tax rate of 10%. The calculated markup before tax on overhead, therefore, is 12.1%. And the expected annual return on investment, that's from the 1.5 million, is 128,614. And the return of investment rate per minute is 1 Rand 41. So what is the total cost per consultation? A new and established patient, the definition is the consultation or visit of a new or established patient of average duration or complexity. This is usually deemed to be 15 minutes and includes counseling with the patient, talking to the patient and or family, and coordination with the healthcare provider or liaise with a third party on behalf of the patient. So the average duration, as I said, is 15 minutes. Therefore, the cost of consultation is the 14 Rand for the labor rate, 17 Rand for the overhead rate, and 1 Rand 40 for the return of investment multiplied by 15, 33 Rands and 25 cents multiplied by 15. This value, 33.25, is the Rand conversion factor. It's referred to as the Rand conversion factor. So that's 498 Rand 75 plus 15% gives you 573. That is 573 is what the average GP cost of service is. It means if you're looking at a rural area or you're looking at an urban area or you're looking at a suburb, the average rate between all these different solo practices is 573 Rand 56 for 2020. What are the medical aids paying for each consult? We looked at GEMS, they're paying 374.80, Discovery 403.30. These are non-network GPs. ProfMed 386, MediHelp 414, BestMed 401. The average of all this is 396. What was the average payout in 2018? it was around 370 rands per event, is expected to be 431 rand 46 for 2020. So let's look at the revenue on a 75% productivity according to the Department of Health uh, document. If a GP is at 75% productivity, they spend 15 minutes per patient per day in an 8-hour day. That means 6 hours are dedicated solely to seeing patients. So if we see 24 patients a day at a rate of 374, the revenue is 1,978 rand 944 after expenses, after paying VAT and claiming some money back from VAT. Your profit as a GP is 195,217. Using the same technique, we look at discoveries 323,125, ProfMed 247, MediHelp 375, BestMed 314. The average is 291. And if the GP was using the study rate, be getting 1,087,252 after paying VAT expenses. So how does this compare to the GP in the public sector? GP in the public sector earns 1,173,900. So a GP in the public sector earns more. Let us now look at increasing the patient numbers or increasing the hours worked. If we're seeing 15 minutes per patient, if a GP has to work an 8-hour day and see more patients, that's 32 on an average 32, that means he would have to decrease the consultation time to about 12 minutes, and then he would be able to see 755, 918. So to see patients in 12 minutes, you need to employ more staff. So your expenses might go up because you're going to get them to do the blood pressure, you're going to get them to call, speak to the medical aides. So all those tasks, you can save time and your profit goes up. But again, you might have to employ staff to do this for you, those tasks. So based on these factors, it seems that doctors in the public sector earn more than doctors in the private sector. So why join the public sector or why join the private sector? Let's look at the pros and cons of each sector. As a private practitioner, you're usually a solo practitioner. In the public sector, it's teams. So if you like working in a team, the public sector is better for you. Professional autonomy. You can be your own boss in the private sector. Whilst in the public sector, you have to report to a boss and do what the boss says. Clinical autonomy. In the private sector, you choose the equipment, the treatment, but of late, medical aids now seem to dictate the treatment and the continuation of care. In the public sector, you always hear non-functioning equipment, delays in repairs, there's limited drugs or drugs stuck out. So these are the problems faced in the public sector. So why some doctors prefer to earn less in the private sector than deal with poor non-functioning and delays in repairs of equipment. In the public sector, it's not a user-friendly system. There's usually beds not available, difficult to get hold of a specialist that you need, especially during the after hours. The altruistic nature of the profession. Generally, in the public sector, you are serving the poor. The altruistic nature may give the doctor a better job satisfaction. Finally, family life. In the private sector, you work the hours you want. If you work more, you get more. If you work less, well, you get less. But so why choose private practice if in private practice you earn less? Well, there are alternative ways of making money. If you decide to be your own boss, if you decide to work the hours you want to, if you decide to have clinical autonomy, then you can either settle for a lower paycheck or enhance your pay by taking up a sessional post in government, doing a grants evaluation for SASA, do contracts with industries like wellness clinics, work in private casualty, specialization, Botox, IV bars, travel clinic, occupational health, Diversify, buy a franchise, transport business, property, make money online, that's the latest, do RAF evaluation. So there are alternative sources of income if you're in private practice as well. So at the end of the day, you got to decide where you want to be. Do you want to work your own hours, be your own boss, or would you prefer to have study leave, have more structured leave system, um, and report to a boss and work in a team? Choice is yours. Thank you for joining me today, looking at the salaries of GPs in the private sector and comparing this to GPs in the public sector. If you like what you heard, press the like button. If you want to hear more content of this nature, press the subscribe button. Now that you know how much a GP in the public sector earns as opposed to one in the private sector, and if you wish to know how much a lawyer or an engineer earns in the public sector, then click on my video on the left. See you soon.